All right, welcome to the table. Hope everyone's doing good. I see you guys in the comments, and I've been sitting here reading some of them. So, good evening to you too, Winnipeg, and everybody else that's in here. Really appreciate y'all being with me. We got a lot to talk about, and we got a lot to sing about for sure. So, thank you guys so much. Churchill, Tennessee, good to see you in here. Good to see the comments rolling in. Hope everyone's doing well, and hope everyone is staying safe and warm wherever they are. It turned cold here again. Today, the weather where I'm at has been absolutely insane. It's been sunny one minute. It's been spitting snow the next, and rainy the next, and windy the next. We have literally had all the kind of weather you could possibly want in one day. It was even warm for a minute. So I always tell people when they move to East Tennessee, I'm like, you know what? If you don't like the weather around here, just stick around for a while, because I promise you, your kind of weather is coming up. It may be here before I get done talking. So, yeah, it's going to be a good show, and I really appreciate everyone for tuning in and hanging out with me. And so we'll have fun. We just sit here, for those of you that have never been here at the table before, what we do, we just sit here and we talk about the crazy world around us, and I reach over and grab my guitar and I play songs that I've written about the crazy world around us. And there's been no shortage of material as far as a songwriter goes. This day and age, there's absolutely no shortage of material, so you've got plenty to talk about. And I wrote two just over the last week or so, because again, it's just never a slow news day. I take breaks from time to time from writing the songs, just because I don't know. I've always been the type of songwriter that just writes when the inspiration hits. So I don't really go back and do a lot of editing and rewriting and stuff like that. I pretty much just write when the inspiration hits. So sometimes I'll see something happen, I'll write a song about it, and next thing you know, I've wrote 5 or 10 songs about it. We've got an album to make. Other times I may go a while and not write one. Some things sometimes it's just too annoying and irritating to write about, and then some things are just so absurd you have to. But I always tell people that my songs are satirical, and satire is the use of humor, irony, and exaggeration to expose the stupidity of people's beliefs. And so that's what we do here at the table. We just talk about the world, and we sing some satirical tunes about people's stupidity. so I hope you guys are having a good time, and I hope you guys look forward to it, because we always have a good time here at the table. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just kick it off with a tune I wrote a couple of days ago. Donald Trump was out selling sneakers. I'm sure y'all saw that. And I made a YouTube video that I posted where I talked about the subject. And I went to upload that video to YouTube, and I said to myself, what am I going to call this video? I hadn't wrote the song yet. I just talked about it. So thank you very much. All right, some of these comments are great. So what happened was, I said to myself, what am I going to call this video that I've made talking about it? And I started to call the video Trump Sells Sneakers to Suckers. And then I said, hold on a minute, that's a song title. I'm not going to waste that on a YouTube video. I'm going to write a song called Sneakers to Suckers. And so I just sat down and wrote it in no time flat. That's the thing about these tunes. It's not like I sat and put a whole lot of thought into it. Really, they just write themselves. I don't really have to do a whole lot. As long as Donald Trump is in the political arena and his minions are out there following him, there'll always be something to say. So we'll start off the show with some Sneakers to Suckers. And again, thank you guys so much for being with me. He's never worked a hard day at the factory, never walked down one country road. His daddy gave him $1 million. He calls that a small loan. Yet he's fooled so many blue collars into thinking he could clean up their mess. He wouldn't piss on them if they were burning, or wipe his nose on their Sunday best. Now he's out selling sneakers to suckers. There's one born every day. They can't put food on their table, but for him they'll cough up and pay. Trading cards and mugshots for a tiny piece of his suit. He's out hawking sneakers to suckers when he wouldn't walk a mile in their shoes. All right. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, when I was writing the song, I know it's just literally 2 verses and it's over. It's a quick song. A lot of times I tell people that this is satirical country with a punk rock mentality. It's just get in and get out as quick as possible. And when I got to that last line about, he's selling sneakers to people who he wouldn't even walk a mile in their shoes, I was like, that's it. That's pretty much all I need to say. There's no reason in repeating anything or going back over anything again. And so, it's been crazy watching all the things that Donald Trump can sell. And he's got an audience, a built-in audience to buy the stuff. It is so mind-numbing and mind-boggling that the guy can still do it. But I saw a clip where, I can't remember, well, several people have been saying this. It's not just, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene said it and some girl on Fox said it. They always love to say, well, hey, where's Biden's merch? Why can't Biden push no merch? And I'm like, because Biden's working for the country. He's not out here trying to sell flags. If he did, people like us would never buy one. I don't have one flying off my house. I don't plan on it anytime soon. I'm not going to set a cardboard cutout of him out in the house. It's like, there's just a really weird idolatry with the Trump cult that's just weird to me regardless. It's not even about politics to me anymore. It really ain't, because that ain't even the Republican Party. It's really not. It's the absolute worst has hijacked the Republican Party. They've all took it over. And it's just reasonable people versus batshit insanity is pretty much what we have. And, it's like, I just, when they say things like, well, where's Biden's merchandise? Why ain't he selling no shoes? Because we wouldn't buy them if he did, I mean, we're not the type of people to run out and worship a dude that way. And I've definitely got a song coming up later on that very subject. But I wrote another one right after that, and I figured we'd go ahead and do it too. We'll do the 2 new ones first. But man, I saw this headline, and again, I was like, that's got to be a song. I mean, this was a country song just dying to happen. They were talking about Hunter Biden and the whole case they've had against him crumbling to the ground. And, now the informant, the trusted FBI informant that supposedly had all the information, came right out loud and said that he got it from Russian intelligence and it's all bullshit. And so, in their world, though, they say that everything still stands. It's still the truth. When Jim Jordan and Comer is asked about it, they're like, hey, well, the story still stands. And I'm like, really? It still stands when your informant admits he's lying. You still say it's the truth. That's how far gone they are. But I saw this headline where they mistook a picture in Hunter Biden's phone. It was a picture of sawdust. I think it was a picture someone had sent him of like a table saw, and there was like these little lines of sawdust on the table. And they confused sawdust for cocaine. And I saw that and I said, dang, I've talked before here at the table and in different videos about my years of drug use and alcoholism, and I've put a lot of that to bed and don't do those things anymore. I have really had some crazy nights, folks. I really have. You're looking at a guy that tried to one time drop a Macho Man elbow off a gazebo through a picnic table just because he thought it was a good idea. But I never one time looked at sawdust and thought that it was cocaine. I never thought, hey, I might should try to put that up my nose. It never happened. And so I'm reading that headline, and it was like, Hunter Biden's attorney slams prosecutors for mistaking sawdust for cocaine. And I was like, oh, man, if this is not a country song just dying to be written, I got to do it. So here we go. And thank you so much. Thank you to Kella Hella. Thanks to everyone who's here. I really appreciate every one of you. And I'll get into the comments a little later, and we'll talk back and forth. I don't take no orders from the Kremlin. You won't hear me praising Moscow. And I don't sit around scared and trembling over boogeymen nowhere to be found. I may not be the best or the brightest. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. And I pin my faith to the coattails of everything some politician says. 'Cause I know shit from Shinola, and I can tell the piss from the rain. And even though they took it out of cola, I know the difference between sawdust and cocaine. I will pay double for my groceries, and I'll gladly return my shopping cart before I let the fascists take it over and put a dagger right through my country's heart. I won't give the microphone to hatred. I won't sit and listen to their spill. And I will never be dedicated to help a billionaire with his legal bills. 'Cause I know the shit from Shinola, and I can tell the piss from the rain. And even though they took it out of cola, I know the difference between sawdust and cocaine. I know the difference between sawdust and cocaine. All right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're here with me at the kitchen table. It's always a good show, and always great having you guys here with me as we try to sing our way through this crazy world. But I really can't play that tune without going back and playing one of our old favorites, because while we're on the subject of Hunter Biden, we just kind of got to stay here a minute. And I wrote this song a long time ago. I don't have the date written on it here where I wrote it down, but I wrote this song a long time ago because, man, it's been the right wing's, Hunter Biden has been their biggest boogeyman for the longest time. And now that story's falling apart, and we're learning that, they got all their information from an informant that was full of shit. But I've always made the argument in so many videos and so many conversations with people that regardless of what Hunter Biden has or hasn't done in his life, it bears no effect whatsoever on you and me and the life that we live or how we go about paying our bills, feeding our families, nothing. He's a private citizen. If he's guilty, then throw the book at him. I don't care, because I don't worship Joe Biden and I don't worship Hunter Biden. So if they're criminals and they can prove it, go for it. You're never gonna hear old Brando complain. I'm not gonna sit here and try to take up for somebody that's we know has done wrong. So yeah, if Hunter Biden's guilty of something, throw the book at him. But so far, everything they've tried to throw at him just won't stick because it's all bullshit. But for whatever reason, they still have a hard on for Hunter. And so back when Marjorie Taylor Greene showed off his pictures to Congress, I was just like, I said out loud, man, she's got a hard on for Hunter. And I went, that's a song. And a lot of times, for those of you that ask, how do you go about writing these tunes? Well, I see the story, and it's absurd, and it's crazy. And then I'll just sort of say something in my own head about it, and yeah, she's got a hard on for Hunter. And then I go, that's a song title, and then boom, the rest writes itself. It's really not so hard. I had one fellow musician reach out to me and was like, man, how are you writing these songs so fast? Like, how are you doing it that fast? You get them out the day the news breaks, like 5 minutes after the story breaks, you got it out. And I'm like, man, it writes itself. I just kind of steer the ship, But anyway, here's Hard On for Hunter. And this one's available on the album Shots of Truth, Volume 1. And you can find that on Apple Music and iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is you get music. Volume 1 is on there. I'm working on getting Volume 2 on there. Right now, Volume 2 is only available on Bandcamp. It's just like that time at Bandcamp. Bandcamp.com is where Volume 2 is at. I'm going to get it up on Spotify and all the other places soon. So the two volumes will be there together. But yeah, you can check out Volume 1. It's pretty much anywhere you get your music. And this was one of the first tunes that we put on there, and we had a great time doing it. Marjorie's got a hard on for Hunter. She talks about him all the time. Shows off his dick pics to Congress. They drive her out her mind. She tries like hell to suppress it. She tries like hell to project. She's got a hard on for Hunter. At least that's what we suspect. Junior's got a hard on for Hunter. He always hands him the blame for all of his dirty dealings and the time he misplaced his cocaine. He thinks that we all can't see it, the little twinkle he gets in his eye. Junior's got a hard on for Hunter, and I don't think we have to ask why. With all the world's problems, getting back on our feet, breaking our backs just to make ends meet, they just can't help it. They just can't stop demanding to see Hunter's laptop. Now the right wing has a hard on for Hunter. He's there to fight and distract. Truth won't get in the way of their stories, and they won't be bothered with facts. They all wish that they could have partied like he did back in his day. But they all got a hard on for Hunter, and the truth is they just couldn't hang. Yeah, the truth is they just couldn't hang. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you being here with me. Hope everyone's doing good on this Saturday. And yeah, as I was sitting there singing that last verse, truth won't get in the way of their story, and they won't be bothered with facts. I mean, they just continue to live out the songs that I write about them. So, yeah, really appreciate you. And by the way, thank you guys so much for those of you that tuned in to Wayne Stock. We had a really good time playing that event. It was a great one, and we had a great time doing it. And Jess did man the camera and managed to capture the whole show. Our good friends Jennifer and Jeff, they also captured some video down front that I ended up posting later, and I still have some of those in the tank that I'm going to be posting. So thank you guys so much. Jess is kind of under the weather at the moment, so we all hope how soon she's well and back on her feet, going full throttle, because I'm a lost ball in high weeds without her. So get well soon, Jess. I really appreciate the help. She's bouncing in the comment section, so if we have any trolls that wants to get out of line, she'll show them the door. The way I look at trolls is this: they're trolls, and I'm not going to let them take away the joy of what we do, and I'm not going to let them get in the comment section and make the whole thing about them. I say this to trolls all the time. Go make your own content if you believe in it so strongly. Come out from behind that, fake profile picture and sit down in a chair and say what's on your mind. I mean, obviously you think there's a big audience for it. And sometimes, I'll give it to them. There's times people will leave a comment on one of my videos. It'll have 600 likes. People telling them, way to go, brother. So there you go. You got a crowd. Just sit down in the chair and see if you can follow my act. Have at it. But we always try to have a good time here at the table, and Jess helps us do so by showing the trolls the door. So we got that. But you would like to know what kind of electric guitar I use? Well, I wish I still had them in here in the kitchen with me. I've done some moving around here and getting some stuff set up. I've got several, by the way. My main guitar that I've had for so long, I got a 1981 Gibson Les Paul Standard. It's only 1 year younger than me, so it's almost like we were just meant to be. I've had that guitar since I was a teenager. It was like the first real guitar I got. Now, I had a few pawn shop guitars that I learned how to play on, but the Gibson Les Paul was the one that I got right out of high school. when I went and got my first job. I went and got my first job and saved up, and the whole reason I got that job was to get a Les Paul. At the time, I didn't really have any responsibilities or kids or anything, and it was like, I'm getting a Les Paul. So I went to work and got me that one. It was used in a pawn shop, but it's been a great guitar. I also have an American-made Fender Telecaster. I love Tellies. I don't play a Telly like most people do. I can't do the country chicken picking stuff. I'm more of a bluesy, kind of grungy Neil Young kind of player. I just make it scream, the best I can. And but I really like a Telly, and the American one I got's good. And then recently I got a Hagstrom Viking. They're a Swedish-made guitar, and that thing has almost become my favorite guitar over the Les Paul. It plays so good. It's got just a great tone, great feel. The neck fits my hands perfectly. It's never let me down. I've really enjoyed that guitar, and a lot of the if you listen to the album on the Tennessee Brando stuff, if you listen to the album Brando's Real Review, that guitar is all through that album, and I feel like that guitar actually changed the tone of my album somewhat, because it's just got such a distinct tone. So I really like that one. And then also I got a custom built one not long ago. It's in the shape of a Telecaster, and I've been working on it and modifying it. We're going to call it the Brando Caster when we're done. I got me a bandana pick guard on it, and my buddy in Knoxville, Steve Novelli, does some of the best guitar work around. Can set them up really good. He's got it set up playing good. So that's pretty much my guitars. Now the acoustics I play here at the show at the table, I have an Ibanez acoustic, and I have a Alvarez baritone that I may play before the night's over. So you'll see those two. But, one of these days we'll just have to have an electric guitar video where I just show everybody what I can do. I don't really play electric guitar very often. Not here on the show. Back during the pandemic when we were doing these shows, that's all we could do because everything was closed down. I actually did bust out some electric on one of the shows, which was kind of a little bit hard to do because it's hard to control the volume. I'm so used to wailing on electrics, But we have a good time, and we started doing these shows like this. I started doing them back in the pandemic because all the gigs dried up, and then it just stuck. It just became. At first, it was very hard to get used to because I'm so used. I still realize. I realized it just a minute ago that when I end a song, I don't really know how to end a song without talking to you like you're in a bar room. It's like, all right, thank you, everybody. It's like I feel like I need to shout that to the top of my lungs when I get done. I've still not fully shook that, but it's different playing to a screen. But then I started doing the videos like the political commentary, and I completely stumbled into it. I've told friends of mine that said to me, hey man, what made you start talking politics or religion? Well, the truth is I've done it my whole life. My family's talked it my entire life. There's never a day goes by that it don't get brought up in the house. It's always been. And me and my uncle used to sit and study it like some people study football stats. We really did from the time I was a kid. I only watched sports back when I was younger. I like boxing and wrestling. That was it as far as what I wanted to watch. And then, I watched football with my friends just because they did, just to be cool, but I never cared for it really. I'd rather watch a basketball game, honestly, if I was going to watch a team play. I like basketball the best, but like some people knows Kentucky basketball stats, I know political stats and have my whole life. And so back in 2020, one of my favorite artists, Tyler Childers from Kentucky, he put out an album called Long Violent History, and it was an album of all fiddle tunes. But the very last song on the album was called Long Violent History, which actually that's it, hanging out there on the wall behind me. I highly recommend it. It's an instrumental fiddle album until you get to that last song, and when you get to that last song, it will hit you right straight in the gut. And he put out a video talking about the song and what it meant to him, and he wanted everybody to understand exactly where he was coming from. And when he did, everybody in my part of the world started screaming, he's woke, he's went woke, he's, just the same old bullshit. And I remember thinking to myself, this guy is one of us. This is a guy, I live in Tennessee, but I was raised in Kentucky. I got so many friends and family that are in Kentucky, and I'm like, this is a guy that grew up and was born and raised in Kentucky, and now he's doing well for himself. And he's pointing out something that's very obvious. And why is everybody giving him a hard time? I remember thinking to myself, you guys will sit and listen to Kid Rock and Ted Nugent, who, Tyler Childers could fall out of his bed and bang his head on the guitar on the way down and make better music than either one of them two. And so I'm like, why can't you guys, listen to Tyler Childers? And I just made a video sitting out in my chair out there in the yard. I just sat down and made a video like that, and it blew up. And when it did, I had people saying to me, man, you should be doing that more often. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I just didn't feel like typing that day. I literally said that. I was like, I just really didn't feel like typing out a long-winded Facebook post, so I made a video and stuck it on YouTube. But it blew up, and then, I can't remember exactly what Morgan Wallen did. He did something stupid, and I talked about that, and that one blew up too, and I was like, what the hell's going on, So then I started, making TikToks, and it just went from there. And now here we are on YouTube. I don't really get on TikTok as much as I used to just because the app is so screwed up. I can't never get ahead on it. It's like I'll get hit with community guideline violations over the stupidest reasons you ever heard. I'll end up getting shadow banned. If I mention YouTube on TikTok, the video will get suppressed. If I say, hey, come over to YouTube and check me out, or come over here, or hey, come to Wayne Stock and watch me play, that video will get nothing. It won't even get no traction at all. And so, but here we are now. We're over here on YouTube, and we're doing it over here. And just the other day, we hit 75,000 subscribers here on the channel, and then right after that, we already made it up to 77,000, and we're cruising towards 78. So at this rate, folks, I think 100,000 is going to come to us pretty quick, because we were sitting at 37,000 when the year started. So we've already doubled that, and I can't thank you guys enough. I still, to be brutally honest, and I am not looking for everybody to jump in the comment sections and pat me on the back, but it's like I just went out there in the yard one day and sat down and started talking, and I never knew anyone would give a damn what I had to say. But, the rants that you hear on YouTube now every day were pretty much what I was talking to. It was just me talking to my family. I just took it outside and put a phone in front of me. There's times that I look back and go, well, I definitely had a lot of content I missed out on over the years that I just ran into to my dad or ran into to my mom and walked off. But now we're doing this, and it's growing and it's catching on, and I really appreciate all of you for sitting here, again, putting things into context. A couple of years ago, I was sitting here in the same spot doing videos to 15 to 20 people, and now we're sitting here doing it to 548. And so I really appreciate you guys for being here. And be sure to hit the thumbs up button, and be sure to share it and let everybody know it's out there. I try to do my best to share it on as many apps as I can, but it's hard sometimes getting the word out there, because people will just they'll see it and then maybe forget it, or sometimes they don't see it. It's one of those things where I'm one of those people too that I have a really hard time just constantly sharing stuff, because I don't want to be the guy that annoys the shit out of people, but then again, you kind of have to. So I really appreciate y'all for being here. I've only been through Memphis. I've never actually stopped in Memphis. That's the one city in Tennessee of the major cities that I've not really been to. I've drove through it a time or two, but that's about it. But yeah, and we got, that's right. We can't worry about annoying everybody. But we definitely got to keep our eye on the ball, and for sure vote in November, because there's so much going on. The thing is, if you're doing this kind of thing here, you're always plugged into it, because the news is always breaking. It's one of those things where I'm still trying to juggle it and figure out, okay, man, I need a break. I need to take my mind off this for a while, and I'll do that. Thank you, Joseph. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I'll do that, and then the news will break. There's been a time or two that I've made a couple of videos, maybe the day before, and said to myself, I'm going to take tomorrow off and do nothing. Well, sure as I do that, Donald Trump steps in another big pile of shit, and the news breaks, and there we go again. So, it's kind of like you're sort of like on call to just constantly be plugged into the news. But we keep doing it anyway, because in November, I've never in my life going into this election, before I've been worried about certain issues. There were certain things on my mind that I was worried about. For example, in 2004, I remember thinking, damn, I don't want I didn't want us to go to Iraq. I didn't want us to be in that war. And I wasn't a fan of George W. Bush, and I was thinking about the war in Iraq. I was thinking about that. Back then, though, we may have agreed or disagreed with whether or not. That's the thing. That's why I say that today's MAGA Republicans aren't Republicans, because back then, when we was arguing with Bush supporters, if you want to call them that, Republicans, whatever, we were saying that, hey, we don't believe that we should be in that war. And they were saying, yeah, we believe that we should. But we weren't over here making like pro-Iraqi videos. We weren't over here like going and interviewing Saddam Hussein and sitting down in front of him and giving him a microphone for 2 hours. And that's what's so screwed up about this, is now here we are, and we're going into an election where for the first time in my life, I'm more worried about democracy than any other issue out there. Because I'm saying to myself, damn, we got a guy saying he wants to be dictator on day one, but he'll give it back to us. Just let him run the country for one day as a dictator. He'll turn over the power back to us. And I'm like, when has that ever happened in history? When have we ever had a moment like that where a dictator was just dictator for 24 hours and handed it back? And they go out here, you got that guy, Jack Posobiec or whatever his name was, at the CPAC event saying, yeah, we're here to put an end to democracy. Well, they'll always come back later and say, yeah, we were just joking about that. We weren't serious. The media can't take a joke. We're not going to take a joke about democracy. I'm not going to take jokes about that. And I'm not going to take it lightly, because I feel like they're making, if it's jokes, and I don't think it is, but I think they're saying these things to test the water. They can always say it was a joke, but they do it to test the water to see who will laugh. And when Jack Posobiec, or whatever the hell his name was, stood up and said that, the audience clapped. Now, he didn't never say, hey, I'm joking, folks, I'm just making a joke. He didn't say that. He waited till people started holding his feet to the fire, and then he said, oh, I'm joking. But I think they're saying these things and they're pushing these things because they want to see just how much people will accept. And MAGA Republicans are all willing to throw democracy in the trash. I've had them say to me, I don't believe in democracy. I've had them say to me that they should be able to secede from the Union, and that I shouldn't be allowed to vote in a red state. They say these things to me, and then try to gaslight me and say that, well, you're spreading hyperbole, you're just spreading a bunch of fear. And I'm like, no, you guys are saying these things, and I'm just pointing it out that you're saying it. And I take democracy very seriously, and everyone should. We can get back to disagreeing about things. I'll be disagreeing. I'm sure I'll be disagreeing with somebody for the rest of my life. I know that's going to happen. I started to say I'll be disagreeing with Republicans for the rest of my life, but the truth is I'll be disagreeing with somebody about everything. We could sit down here at this table and we could talk all day long. Should pineapple be on a pizza or not? And we can have that debate. Do you like the Steelers or the Cowboys? We could sit and have debates like that. Who should pay for the health care? Should we do this or should we do that? Or how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for that? But not democracy. That's not what we should be sitting here debating about. Let's just do away with that. No, and I'm not going to hear that out. That's not a two-sided argument. That's bullshit. So yeah. I did see that, by the way, where Trump accidentally endorsed Biden. And that's another thing. Every gaffe that Donald Trump has, he will back up and say he was just joking. He was joking about Nikki Haley because of January 6th. He was joking about Obama being president. We don't have a sense of humor. He says these things with a straight face. He never says I'm joking. He never laughs after he gets done. And by the way, I saw a clip of him where he was talking, and they actually, the lady interviewing him on Fox was like, yeah, you're a funny guy. You're a real funny guy, and I don't think people get to see your sense of humor. And he said, I don't want to be a comedian. So if he don't want to be a comedian, he don't get to turn around later and tell us he was joking about democracy. I think that's some bullshit. But, yeah, I really appreciate you guys for hanging out. You're right. You're right, John. He would never, ever admit that he was wrong. We're never going to hear that. I mean, he's a guy that, says he prays, but he also said he never asked for forgiveness. So I don't know what he talks about if he does pray. I can't imagine that he would actually. I just can't picture Donald Trump praying. I really can't. I can't picture like the kind of prayers I heard when I was growing up in church. I just can't picture him. I just picture him being like, "Thank you for allowing me to be so great," But thank you so much to Scooter. I really appreciate that. The Gulf War vet. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for hitting those virtual tip jars. But always remember, I appreciate when you do, but you don't have to. Just sit back and enjoy the show, and we're going to have a good time. He probably does pray to Putin, if the truth be told. I would not doubt that for a second. But again, when they were talking about, I said this earlier, I said I've got a song coming later on this subject. But when they sit and talk about where's Biden's merch, well, he's not out there pushing merch. But I've got a funny story about that topic, and I got a song to go with it. Back last year actually. I still feel like I'm in 2023. But last year I was riding around, and I looked over, and I live in East Tennessee, so I'm right on the tri-state line of Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. So I've got the trifecta, of the Bible Belt, and where I'm at is like absolutely as red as it could possibly get. So you could imagine. But I was going somewhere, and I looked over and I saw this truck, and it had not one but two big. I mean, these weren't just your standard size flag. These things were humongous, and they said, "We the people are pissed." Two flags that said that, the same flag. He was, I guess he was so pissed he had to get two flags. And then he had a big Trump 2024 on top of the truck. And it's like, so three flags just got like, good Lord. And I said, man, what's the deal with these fuckers and flags? And again said, well, there's a song title. I will never understand the mentality of someone that wants to get a flag for a politician. It makes no sense. And as far as, January 6th goes, and I'm sure we'll get there eventually in the conversation, but look at the flags you saw on that day, and, the American flag was badly outnumbered. No soldier ever died for a piece of cloth. They died for what it represents. They didn't back down when their number was called. They all just got up and went. Now any ingrate who wants to spew hate, throw a symbol up on a rag. And for the life of me, I'll just never see the deal with these fuckers and flags. He's got a flag flying off his front porch, off his truck flapping in the breeze, from his boat down by the river, for everyone to see. Old Glory has taken a backseat to flags she once fought against. Good luck trying to understand it, 'cause you can't make it make sense. One says his guy really won, the other says he made it great. One just has a thin blue line, the other is a dancing snake. They'll put his head on a bald eagle, throw out childish insults, they get mad when we call them fascists. They get mad when we call them a cult. Well, you asked me where are my flags. Well, boys, I'm not 12, and if I got a problem with Brandon, well, I could say fuck him myself. I never worshiped no politician. I never felt the need to boast or brag. For the life of me, I'll just never see the deal with you fuckers and flags. What's the deal with these fuckers and flags? What's the deal with you fuckers and flags? Man, what the hell is all these fucking flags? All right. I really appreciate you guys for being here. And another funny story about that song, I don't know what happened to me back last year, because I never actually went to the doctor and got checked. That just sort of worked itself out. But I spent a good while, probably close. I mean, it went on for weeks, and I was going, I got to get to a doctor. But at the time, I didn't have no health insurance. So I didn't, couldn't go. But I just, for whatever reason, my voice just kept cracking. Even when I was talking like this, it just cracked. I couldn't sing to save my life. It was the craziest thing. And I wasn't doing a whole lot of shows like this. I wasn't playing out like I used to. So I don't know what the deal was, but for the longest time, I was writing songs, but I couldn't sing them. And so when I wrote this song, I was like, I'm going to have to try to adopt a different vocal style to get this thing wrote because I couldn't belt it out, So I just kind of channeled, and I'm going to kind of give away one of my secrets here, but I just sort of like channeled one of my favorite writers is a guy named James McMurtry. And McMurtry almost talks, when he sings. It's like I'm not going to do none of his songs here, but like, it's just the whole "no soldier ever died for a piece of cloth. They died for what it represents." I was like, just kind of, just kind of picture if he was, and I did that. So now when I sing the song, it's almost too low for me, and I catch myself wanting to belt it. So eventually, I'll end up singing it totally different. But whatever it was worked itself out, and I'm doing okay now. Managed to finally get health insurance, and I've been putting it to use and getting checked out. I was wearing I still am wearing a heart monitor. I had to recharge it. Everything's okay, but I was waking up with my heart racing, and we couldn't figure out why because I've really cut back on my drinking. I don't drink nothing like I used to, and so we're just making sure everything's okay. I had blood work and EKGs and tests ran and stuff like that. All those things came back good, and then the doctor was like, "Well, if you really want to just put your mind at ease, we'll let you wear a heart monitor for about 8 days." And so I got to wear it till Monday, and I'll mail it in Tuesday, and then go back and see what it said. But it ain't been bad. The only thing they say it's not noticeable, which I don't have it on at the moment, but they say it's not noticeable through your shirt, and it's actually not. It's so thin, but there's a blinking light on it that blinks green. So if you got on a thin shirt, you're like, I don't know if it picked up in any of my videos, but if anybody saw a blinking light in any of my videos, that's what it was. I definitely couldn't have wore that back in the years where I was playing in all these dive bars in East Tennessee that I thought I was wearing a wire. So, but again, I thank you guys so much for being here at the table. And yeah, the flags are super annoying. The only time I don't have a flag of any kind on my house or truck or nothing. But I keep one at my grandfather's grave, and the reason I do is because back years ago, my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and back years ago, his brother, who passed away back in 21, his brother went and got a really nice pole and a big flag, and he put it on his brother's grave, And he would go down there, and he would change that flag out every so often. My Uncle Cardinal would do that, and so it was always at my grandpa's grave. Well, then when my Uncle Cardinal passed away, the flag that he left on his grave was just worn completely out, and I was like, I'm not going to have that. So I go down there and I change it out every so often. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be changing it out coming up because my grandpa died on the 28th of February, and so I'm going to be going down there on that day to hoist it back up for him. And that's it for me. It's like I can't imagine that grandfather that fought in World War II. I just can't picture him with like a FDR flag flying off his truck. I can't picture him with like an Eisenhower flag. I think he would have thought it was nuts. I really do. I think he would have thought it was just absolutely crazy if he could be here and see it. Now he was a Republican. Both my grandfathers were, but I've often said that they were Eisenhower era Republicans, and Eisenhower's a guy that would be a socialist in today's, Republican Party. You never hear them give that guy any credit. They can't because he taxed the wealthy and he built the interstate, So, as far as flags go, that's it for me. I put the one on my grandfather's grave, and I do that out of respect for him and his brother, who was a Korean War veteran, and that's the brother would go down there and do that every so often, and I'm just keeping that tradition alive. But I don't thump my chest about it. I don't sit here and brag or boast even about that. I've never understood the like the whole USA USA, all those chants, all that shit just seems way too. I don't know. There's just something cringe about that to me. I've always felt that way. Even when I was a little kid watching wrestling in the 80s, I thought it was weird when the crowd chanted USA, and I ended up rooting for, the Iron Sheik. But, I've never understood that need to boast or brag or thump your chest and we're the greatest country in the world. It's like, I've just never been that person, but I've always respected, my grandparents and uncles and people who have served, and I don't understand their logic when it comes to the flags at all. I mean, they used to be all about the American flag, back in the day, of the Bush years. We're going back to that, it was all American flags back then. But they didn't have Bush flags, but now they got Trump flags because he's a salesman. He's a grifter. That's what he is. He's the WWE brought to television. He just took his, and he's a WWE Hall of Famer. I mean, they put him in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame years ago before he even became president. He's been at WrestleManias. That's just, he's hosted them from Trump Plaza. I think he sat back on the front row and watched and went, hey, people will buy anything. And here we are. But he absolutely is a crook. And yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a great comment about the Eisenhower era Republicans would be, moderate, today, but more of a moderate leaning to the left. I had a really interesting conversation with a listener from Germany. We sat and talked back and forth for quite a while about how that they view us from over there. And he was telling me, he's like, we don't look at, when you hear Donald Trump call Joe Biden the radical left, they don't look at Joe Biden that way at all. In their country, he would be more like moderate and leaning to the right. This guy told me that even someone like a Bernie Sanders or an AOC, they would be like moderate leaning left, but they still wouldn't be radical over there. Those are just talking points that Trump loves to use to try to demonize it as much as he can. But yeah, I do retire old flags properly. I'm glad you asked that question. I do. I meant to say that a while ago. Thanks for pointing that out. I do. I actually have a couple of them laying around, and the one I'm going to take down in here in a couple of days will definitely need to be retired. There's not a lot left of it. We've had some crazy weather last little while here, and it's took a toll on them. But yeah, we'll get back to playing y'all a little bit of music, and we had the Super Bowl. I don't think I've done a live stream since the Super Bowl happened. And everybody had to go crazy over Taylor Swift being there to cheer on her boyfriend. And speaking of our grandparents, I would love for my grandfather to be here to ask him this question. When Joe DiMaggio dated Marilyn Monroe, did people lose their minds like that? Was it made political? Now I know what some people would say. That's, Taylor Swift is spewing politics, but has she really? If you really stop and think about it, what is Taylor Swift's big crime? What did she really do? She just encouraged people to register to vote. She's not endorsed Joe Biden as of the moment. She's not actually endorsed him. She's talked about some of the issues at hand. But I really don't, to me, there's just certain issues, going back to what I said earlier about what we can and can't debate about, and have conversations about, okay, who's going to pay for the health care? That's a political issue. But women's rights, that's going to be about left versus right. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be that at all. So if anything, she's just spoke up for people and encouraged people to register to vote. And that's her big crime, to them. Because they realize that when she inspires young people to vote, young people are going to end up voting against them. They realize that. And they do nothing. They do nothing to connect with young voters. When's the last time you saw a Republican actually try to reach out and connect with a young voter, or anybody for that matter? What is Donald Trump trying to do? If you think about it, okay, he's running to be elected again as a failed former president. And he's talking all about his problems and his legal woes, and how the whole world is rigged against him. How is that appealing to a young voter who's voting for the first time? And how is that appealing to women who have a lot bigger problems in this world? How is that appealing to the gay and trans community or black people? How are those things appealing to them? How does it win them over? And I don't understand how anybody can still be sitting on the middle of the fence at this point, but how in the world does it win over independents and moderates? How does it bring them in? What about Donald Trump would be appealing to a moderate voter or someone who, an independent voter? Because what's he going to offer? He doesn't have one piece of legislation nowhere he doesn't have a New Deal. He doesn't have Obamacare. He doesn't have a big fucking deal nowhere. All he did was stack the Supreme Court and overturn Roe versus Wade. And he's out there bragging about that. But now he's kind of like the dog that caught the car, because he's dying to brag about it, but he can't brag about it too much, because if he brags about it too much, then it's going to turn the women even further against him if he brags about it too hard. It's the same thing with the vaccine. He's dying to brag about it, but he can't really, because he's got that whole crowd of, COVID deniers in there too. So it's so crazy watching him squirm when he gets asked these questions, and it's so crazy watching these MAGA Republicans squirm when it comes to Taylor Swift. So back last year, I wrote this tune called "Take It Easy on 'Em, Taylor," because I don't remember what it was she did at the exact moment that I wrote this song, but it was something that made their heads explode, and it was total tongue-in-cheek sarcasm. I really don't want her to take it easy on them. Actually, just give them all the hell you can. But yeah, tongue-in-cheek. This is "Take It Easy on 'Em, Taylor." Take it easy on 'em, Taylor. They've sure had a hard time. They can't catch a big break, and they're losing their minds. They can't go and watch a movie. They can't even drink a beer. Take it easy on 'em, Taylor. They've sure had a rough year. You'll reach the younger generation. They could never win that crowd. All the kids are gonna stand up and vote their sorry asses out. They're scared to death of progress, can't stand the thought of change. And you broke the cardinal rule. You wouldn't just shut up and sing. So take it easy on them, Taylor. They're so worked up these days. They've went so damn crazy. I've even heard a couple say, you respond straight from Satan. They look like one of them LeVays. Take it easy on them, Taylor. I hope you make them fade away. I'll give them hell, Taylor. Let's all make them fade away. All right. I always get cracked up when I'm trying to sing that line. I can't sing it with a straight face because I saw a link. I saw a link where they were talking about how that Taylor looks like one of Anton LaVey's daughters. Anton LaVey was was the founder of the Church of Satan. I mean, she does kind of favor, but it just hit me so funny that they would go that far as to think that she's Anton LaVey's daughter. It's hilarious. Part of me kind of wishes she was, just to make their heads explode even worse. But she's not. But that's just another one of their batshit, things that they can spin to their advantage. But yeah, I really don't want her to take it easy on them. I would rather her just give them hell. So yeah, thank you a lot. That Waylon's actually that's a wood carving of Waylon. A good buddy of mine, Ryan Bupp, did that one. He also did the John Prine one that's hung behind me for so long. And that's, like I said, that's a picture of Tyler Childers' Long Violent History there. Picture of Jerry Lee Lewis there. And behind me is one of my favorite albums of all time, The Drive-By Truckers, Dirty South. And then, of course, we got Muhammad Ali knocking out Sonny Liston. And Hunter S. Thompson is up here. You can't really see him. But, yeah, I guess you can see him. I've got two different angles here I'm looking at, and on the camera I'm talking into, I can't see it, but I can on the other one. So, not to get off sidetracked on boxing, but we've all entertained a few conspiracy theories. If we was being honest, I mean we all have, because in some cases you're just kind of forced to, because the story is so absurd and out there. But I've always had one when it comes to this famous picture of Ali standing over Liston. It looks as though he's saying, I just kicked your ass. But really what he was actually saying to him was, get up, sucker. They're going to think it's a fix. They had, back then, Muhammad Ali had the black Muslims and Liston had the mob. And both of them was threatening the other fighter. Those two guys was actually scared to death. And so if you ever watch it, when Ali catches him with the punch, he catches him. I believe that Liston, this is one of the only conspiracy theories Brando will entertain, but I believe that Liston waited for the first punch that connected good to say, okay, that's it, I'm taking a dive. They'll believe that knocked me down. And he just went down and stayed there. Ali was standing over him going, get up. He's actually saying, get up, they'll think it's a fix. And then later in the post-fight interview, Ali's standing there like a deer in headlights. And I mean, I don't blame him for being scared to death. And he's standing there, and they're asking him what happened. And at first he's going, I don't know. I don't know what I caught him with. I think I caught him with a right hand. I'm not exactly sure. And then when they showed him the tape back, he immediately kind of goes into his salesman mode. It's like, oh, yeah, I hit him with the anchor punch, and old Jack Johnson taught me. I told you guys I had a surprise. And I'm like, well, if you had a surprise, then when you landed that shot, why didn't you say, that's the anchor punch, buddy? He didn't. He was saying, get up. So that's about as far as I'll go with those. But, yeah, we could talk boxing the rest of the night. I'll try not to get sidetracked. But I do have people from time to time want to know who's hanging behind me. Oh, yes, and Sonny Liston wasn't just he was a nasty, nasty individual. And in the first fight, Ali literally just made him look like a joke. I mean, he boxed such a masterful fight there, just peppered his face. And it didn't look like he was doing that much because he was so fast and elusive. But you get to the end of that 7th round, and Liston's on the stool, and his eyes are swelled shut and his lips busted. It's like, yeah, he was... And Ali didn't have a mark on his face. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a funny question. Someone asking, would I have Joe Rogan on? I don't think he would come on here. I really don't. That's a guy that I don't know that I'd even want to talk to. And I know that sounds crazy because he's got the biggest podcast platform in the world. I used to listen to the guy years ago. I did. Now, I didn't listen to every single episode he put out. If he put out an episode with somebody that I enjoyed hearing about, singers and musicians and, athletes and entertainers and actors, people like that. If he had somebody on the show and I wanted to hear it, I'd tune in to watch him there. And he used to he used to not be so bad in my mind. Like, he used to be, I don't know, he just seemed like a much more reasonable guy. Here lately, he's definitely... he's definitely echoing more right-wing talking points. And I've had people say, do you really think Joe Rogan's a right-winger? And I'm like, well, here's why I say that. If Joe Rogan if he holds a liberal viewpoint, if he believes that a woman should have the right to choose if he believes that a woman should have control over her own body, he don't sit there and just go off passionately about that. But if it's a right-wing talking point, he will talk it and drive it into the ground. And so I don't know if he's just playing to his audience, playing to his guests or whatever. And I don't know. It's one of those things where if you'd asked me that question like 5 years ago or longer than that probably, if you'd asked me quite a while, pre-pandemic, if you'd asked me that, I'd be like, I'd love to sit and talk with him and have a cigar. But now it's just like, I don't know, if I would even want to entertain the conversation. And yeah, I think he definitely does what he knows. There's an audience for that, and he knows it, and he plays to that crowd and plays to his guest. He's had he had Bernie on there. They had a good conversation. He had Andrew Yang on there. They had a pretty good conversation, and I enjoyed the episodes he had when he had Dan Aykroyd, because I'm a huge Dan Aykroyd fan. I really loved that one. Loved when he had people like Jake the Snake, the wrestler, and different comedians. It's been pretty funny. But then, he just seems like that he knows there's an audience out there for the whole anti-woke stuff, and he really rides that really hard these days. And he does. He definitely promotes a lot of bad treatment towards women. Absolutely. And definitely probably took too many weird medications during that. Yeah, and that's another one. I should have wrote a song about that. When he tried to blame Joe Biden for saying that there was, airports during the Revolutionary War. But yeah, now Trey Crowder, that's on my bucket list to sit down and talk to that guy. If someone can make that happen, just get us together. I would love to talk to Trey Crowder any day of the week. Corey Ryan Forster is one of my favorites too. He is they both are. They're both funny as can be, but me being the wrestling fan, I love his character, the butter. Now Brando's having a gaffe. They're going to say I'm in cognitive decline. The Buttercream Dream. That is one of my favorite characters ever when he's cutting those promos. It's brilliant. But yeah, I love those two. I went to the Well Read comedy show. My good friend Rita was hooked me up with a ticket. She wasn't able to go, and she gave me her ticket. So I got to go to the Bijou Theater. I got to meet Drew. I got to meet him and shake his hand, and they performed that entire show in drag here in Tennessee, so it was awesome. And Drew actually wanted to talk to me about my drive-by trucker tattoo, and he made me take a picture with him, and then he sent this picture to Patterson Hood from the drive-by truckers. So because they've opened for the truckers before, which is another bucket list. But I did see the truckers down at the 40 Watt a couple of weeks ago, and they killed it, as always. And I've had people from time to time say, "What kind of music do you like?" Well, I like the drive-by truckers, and then I like music. To me, the drive-by truckers is in a completely different world for me. They're like my drug of choice these days. They always have been, really. But yeah, man, I see. Now, what's funny, I have been in the same room with Trey Crowder back before he ever blew up. Believe it or not, I actually attempted my hand at stand-up comedy probably, 2010 or 11. I don't remember the year. I know it was around that time. I actually tried stand-up comedy for a couple of tries. Went to open mic nights they used to have in Knoxville at a place called Side Splitters. And I went down there, and Trey was there. I remember he was there doing a set, and I enjoyed it. I saw him do several at those open mics. And then I just totally got away from doing it, because I'll tell you what, being a singer in a band, and I would say this to Trey Crowder's face, being a singer in a band and talking to an audience and being funny and witty with a band behind you, that's one thing. But being a comedian and you don't have nothing to fall back on, what I mean by that is if you get up there, and let's say me and my band gets up, we play a song to a crowded room, and that crowd really doesn't respond to the song, well, you can just kick right into the next song and hope you get them on it. But if you tell a joke and it falls flat, man, there's nothing to fall back on. There's nothing to catch you. You're going, oh, shit. And so I went a couple of times and did okay. I did okay a time or two. There was one time where I absolutely brought the house down. I was like, oh, my God, I did it. And everybody was patting me on the back going, yeah, man, you should keep doing this. You did great. And I went back the very next week, and no one laughed at nothing I said. It was like crickets. It was the most painfully, silent thing I've ever heard. And there was no way I could play a song and try to get their mind off of it. And there was no way I could just count the band into another song and get away from it. And I just stood there and died a slow, gruesome death as a comedian. And I was like, actually, my last words were, because they had they would hit you with this light if you didn't get done in time. I think you had 6 minutes. And if you went over, they would hit you with a light to let you know that you had so many seconds left. And then if you when that light shut off, they would cut your microphone off and music would start playing. And I probably had another minute and a half to go. But I was just like, you know what, folks, I'm done with this shit. I'll see you later. I just walked off, and that was the end of my short-lived attempt to be a comedian. So, yeah. If you tell a joke to a crowd that just looks at you, man, it was rough. But now I do enjoy Sunday Best. I saw them several times. I enjoy their music. I always get Blackstone Cherry confused with Buck Cherry. I know that's kind of a stupid thing to say, but for some reason, I always want to say, ain't that band that does Crazy Bitch? And then somebody says, no, they're from around here. I'm like, oh, my bad. But, yeah, I try to be funny in the videos, but again, it just doesn't hit the same when you're on stage with a microphone in front of a comedic crowd. And, man, there were some good ones down there. Like I said, I remember seeing Trey before he ever blew up as the liberal redneck. He was funny then, but he just really found his knack as the liberal redneck, and he just kills it. He's great. And when I went and seen that show, they all did great. There wasn't a bad moment. It wasn't a dull moment. It was a great one. But Corey Forster is just so he never takes a breather. He's right on top of it. And he's just got that rhythmic speech pattern like a pro wrestler almost, so the Buttercream Dream is just one of my favorite characters ever. And the Jerry Mander character, it's brilliant. It really is. That's something too. I have to explain a lot of my jokes too. So, yeah, and you can't do that sometimes. I forgot all about Days of the New. I had both of those albums. Well, I don't know how many they made, but I had the first two albums. I know I had the first two on CD back in the day. Remember that? Actually, I still got one of those CD booklets laying on top of my refrigerator that you flip the book. Remember those? Those Days of the New CDs are probably still in it. But I have heard of the Red Clay Strays. I have. So yeah, there's a lot of good music in this part of the world. There really is. Well, I think humor definitely has been in country over the years. If you're referring to country music, I mean, you had guys like Roger Miller. They definitely found a way to work it in there for sure. I always enjoy it when you guys come up with new music for me to listen to. I do sometimes listen to a lot of the same stuff, but it's always fun. Why is country music so conservative? That is a $1,000,000 question right there. You know, I felt like that it's probably, in all fairness, it probably always has been, but it definitely it definitely went harder to the right after 9/11. And, you know, when Toby Keith died, I just made a video and talked some about it, but I didn't drag him through the mud too hard because he had just got done fighting a really hard battle with a really terrible disease. But, you know, after 9/11, it just felt like that when he started singing all those "We'll Put a Boot in Your Ass" songs, it just felt like that it went more and more to that group of people. And I'm going to say something, I know it's going to sound harsh. I know it's going to sound like I'm being a prick. But they found a way to play that kind of music and dumb it down so just the lyrics in a lot of the mainstream country out there. Now, there's a lot of great groups like Red Clay Strays and people like that. I'm not talking about Tyler Childers. I'm not talking about people like that. I'm talking about people like the Florida Georgia Lines and the Jason Aldeans and just all this stuff that is just all cliches. You know, it's all about a truck. It's all about a tractor. How many country songs have you heard where it's like, "Come on, girl, slide up in my truck. I got something good under the seat. We're going to have a party. We're going to crank it up. Woohoo." It's just the same. It's the same rhetoric. And I feel like that, you know, it's an easy style to just write down some dumbed down lyric and throw it out there to them and they'll buy it. But, you know, there were so many artists over the years country artists that wrote so many thought-provoking songs. Johnny Cash, Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson. There's so many people out there that wrote really thought-provoking country music. But I just feel like that over time, those people kind of got pushed off the mainstream and they just welcomed on music that at the end of the day, I feel like they could control. You know, you got a lot of great independent songwriters out there, like Jason Isbell, for example. Is a great songwriter, great musician, great guitar player, badass all the way around. But you don't necessarily see him like in the mainstream of country music because the mainstream of country music would never allow him to say some of the things he said politically. You know, they're the people that crucified the Dixie Chicks or the Chicks now, you know. They crucified them, and they've run anybody out of the genre that has those kind of beliefs. But that's definitely something I would like to dive more into and talk with because I've had some really good conversations with musicians and music producers and different people and songwriters who have, you know, had some really good points. So that's something in the future I definitely want to get more people in and talk about is exactly why is country music so right-wing. But I just believe it's easy to manipulate it, and it's easy to turn it into that. And there's a market for it, and they know it, and they just feed that. That's why, you know, if somebody came along, I mean, if you took the biggest, whoever it is, if you took the biggest bro country dude in the world, Jason Aldean, for example, well, obviously, you know, he's a Trump supporter and does his thing, but could you imagine if someone like an Aldean with that platform just suddenly just came out slamming Donald Trump, how fast they would call him woke and crucify him? And that's the thing, too, about a lot of those guys, man. They're hooked in that for life. They can't escape it. Because if Jason Aldean ever says anything out of the way to to MAGA Republicans, he's going to be called woke and kicked down the road. But that's definitely something that I would like to dive in more and do some more videos. And one thing I'm going to be doing here in the next coming months is I'm definitely going to be doing more collaboration videos. That's something I'm really looking forward to doing. I want to be able to record, collaborations with people, and we talk and bring them on the channel and let people hear their voices. I want the channel to grow and be more than what it is, and we're working, with some really good people to make that happen and get things out there to you guys. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. And once we get the ball rolling with that, we're just now, figuring it out and ironing it out. But as we go forward, I've got some really good people that's working along with me to help us bring a new style of videos. And also, one thing that I'm definitely going to be doing in the future, for those of you that do listen, I do have a podcast for those of you that don't know. For those of you that do, it's If These Hills Could Talk. I've not put out an episode in a while, and the reason being is because I'm working on ways to make it better and have the guests with the split screens and stuff like that, and be able to stream them live. That's something that we're working on. We want to be able to come in, have some of the guests that I've had on before back again for round two, and bring on new people and talk about things. I love hearing other people's perspectives, and we're just going to work to do that and bring more content like that. So eventually we'll still do. I'm always going to do these kind of shows where I sit down and play you the songs, but I also want to do shows where I bring people on and interview them, and we'll find a good time slot to do that, and we'll have some good people on, and we'll talk about the issues at hand. And I feel like we need to be doing that more and more as we go into the election. I believe we just need to keep our eye on the ball and stay focused and continue to keep talking. Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And happy birthday, by the way. Hope you're having a good one. But yeah, we're going to be working a lot of things like that to make it better. And one thing I've been doing is I've been sitting and reading Project 2025, and I plan on doing more videos about that to let everybody know exactly what they're planning to do if they can elect a Republican president back and the power they plan on giving him. It's some pretty scary shit, and I'm not even nowhere near. I'm just in the opening parts of it. But that's one of those things that I want to do more videos on, and I want to bring people on to break it down and talk about it, because I feel like it's something we need to be talking about. I think it's something we definitely shouldn't be sleeping on. So yeah. And happy heavenly birthday to your dad, Emily. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate all of you for being here. Yeah, that's a great point. That comment there about Jason Aldean surviving a mass shooting himself. It's crazy that someone like that could survive that and then still have some of the views he has. But Steve Earle is a musical hero of mine. I've never got to see him in concert, but I listen to him all the time. Was listening to him earlier today. I've got a playlist of Steve Earle that I just put in and play. I love the Jerusalem album. It's one of my favorites. I love The Revolution Starts Now is a great one. I Feel All Right. He had so many great ones. And to me, there's two different versions of Steve Earle. There's like the 80s and 90s Steve Earle that was kind of leaning on the country stuff more harder. It was more like Hillbilly Highway, Get to Our Town, stuff like that. Copperhead Road, of course. But he hit this really cool peak at one point where, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, he started getting into more of like a gritty rock sound with it. And I love the grittier, Jerusalem, Ashes to Ashes, Dust to Dust, America, version 6.0, songs like that. The Revolution Starts Now, and I Feel All Right. Those harder hitting rock tinged tunes is some of my favorite Steve Earle stuff. But he's definitely a massive hero. Yeah, and he did. He started off hanging around with people like Rodney Crowell and Guy Clark, and there's two other greats, for sure. Yeah, I've never got to see Steve Earle in concert, believe it or not. He's in my top 5 probably all time favorites, but I've never had a chance to see him. Yeah, State Troopers, badass. Somebody may have to Google this for me, but wasn't State Trooper Did Bruce Springsteen write that, or did Bruce Springsteen cover Steve Earle doing it? There's a Bruce Springsteen version too. Is the reason why I asked that. I'm pretty sure there is. Um, but yeah, uh, I get that. I get that. I get that. Liking lyrics so more than individual bands. I totally get that. Absolutely. You know, I love this comment. I'm a godless heathen, but I love hearing Johnny Cash talk about Jesus. What's funny? I'm an agnostic that leans on Buddhism, uh, but Ashley McBride is awesome. Okay, Steve Earle was written by Bruce Springsteen and first released by Springsteen in '82. I thought it was. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. But yeah, Steve Earle does a great version of it too. But what was that comment? It slipped by me. Let me go back and grab it. I'm a godless heathen, but I love hearing Johnny Cash talk about Jesus. That's me. Like, I can listen to Johnny Cash sing a gospel tune all day. I can listen to him sing "God's Going to Cut You Down" all day, and I love it. Um, and I can listen to certain artists sing gospel music. I'm not a gospel music fan at all, but there's certain people when they do it. Johnny Cash being probably the top one. I also liked when some of the older bluegrass singers did it. Guys like Bill Monroe and Jimmy Martin. I always thought they did it. Ralph and Carter Stanley, the Stanley brothers. I said the Carter brothers, the Stanley brothers. Guys like that. I liked it when they did it, for sure. But yeah, yeah, I feel like Buddhism's a great philosophy too, and it's something that I get into. Blue Mother Tupelo is badass. They're great. I'm pretty sure. Rita might can help me with this. Didn't I do a show with them? I'm 95% sure I did down on the French Broad at now my mind's going blank. The Fall Fest that we have. I've not been to one in a while, but I'm pretty sure they played at one that I did with down there with Mike McGill and everybody in Chip. So yeah, they're great. Dwight Yoakam's another massive, massive, massive hero of mine. I love Dwight Yoakam. Um, Sometimes, yeah, French Broadfest. I'm pretty sure Blue Mother Tupelo was that. I can't remember if they were the one I played or if they were the one I went to. I don't remember. I know I did one with the Barstool Romeos. I played it twice, I think, and I've been several times. But I want to say Blue Mother Tupelo was there one of the times I played. I'm not sure. But Merle Haggard, that's another one. I used to have. I kind of changed the wall up from time to time, but I used to have the Merle Haggard album, "Serving 190 Proof," which I will argue all day long might be the greatest country record of all time. Sling Blade's the greatest movie of all time. End of story. It really is. I didn't know if they played Hippie Jacks either. Uh, yeah, I have listened to Goose Creek Symphony. It's been a while. Symphony. It's been a while since I have. Um, but yeah, there's a Willie Nelson's another one. Man, he's still going too. What a great dude. Doug Stone. That's somebody not very many people talks about. Johnny Paycheck's another one. Johnny Paycheck was crazy as hell, but was he a hell of a singer? Um, yeah, there's so many of them, man. There really is. I like Nirvana. I won't lie. I enjoy Nirvana. I was always I leaned back in the '90s when I was in high school and grunge was big. I did lean a little bit more toward Alice in Chains. But oh man, Charlie Pride's another one. Blaze Foley, the Duct Tape King. He's so great. Yeah. Now when we get down into these conversations, yeah, we can sit here and talk music from now on. That'd be easy to do for me. But Foo Fighters, love the Foo Fighters. Absolutely, they're great. Um, Ray Charles. At one point I had a Ray Charles record hanging back here. I had Modern Sounds of Country and Western, which is one of my favorites. I have heard that's happened a couple of times with Steve Earle. I've I've heard that years ago that's definitely happened. Mark Chestnut, that's a guy that is criminally underrated. Um, I used to cover a couple of his songs back in the day when I was playing in bar bands. I always loved covering like Brother Jukebox and Too Cold at Home and stuff like that. Yeah, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Pantera. You know what's funny? I've literally played everything in my lifetime over 25 years playing music. It's ridiculous. Like some of the stuff I've covered, I know I don't look like I could in certain cases, and some of the times it wasn't me singing it. I have busted out certain songs that I wasn't able to sing, but somebody in the band was. We used to do back in the day. I had a drummer that could sing AC/DC, so we would do "Long Way to the Top" if you want to rock and roll, uh, or we'd do "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses. I could play some of the solos, but I could never get up there like that. A million years. The Grateful Dead is another one I love. Stevie Wonder and Prince, great. Crystal Gale, Stevie Nicks, yeah. I can finger pick very little. I'm not the best at it, but I can do it somewhat. I never got it as good as I wanted to get at it. There's people out there that can absolutely do it. Like I said earlier, if you just tuned in, I'm more of like when I play electric guitar. Well, when I'm playing acoustic guitar, I mainly just strum through my songs. But when I'm playing electric guitar, I've always kind of said, you know, like I kind of tend to play more melodic. A lot of my favorite players was guys like Gary Rossington and Dickie Betts, uh, David Gilmour, like those more melodic. I like leads that you could almost sing that are very melodic. But then I also just always kind of had a rough around the edges style, more like a Neil Young. Uh, just especially like when me and my band gets playing live, there's certain songs where I love to get into that zone of just tearing it up like a Neil Young would do. Uh, just I love making a guitar howl when I got an electric. I love to make them scream, and just tear them apart. They're so fun to play that way. But then I also like writing melodic solos that I can play the same way every time. I've always been a fan of that, and maybe it's the Skinner influence creeping in. When you had songs like Tuesday's Gone and Simple Man and stuff like that, they played it the same way every time, and I always liked that because it was like that part stood on its own. Is like I said, it was almost as though it had words too, even though it didn't. Because you could sing it. Neil does sound like a garage band. I'll give you that all day. He absolutely does. But it's kind of fun playing in one, to be honest. You know, I've never heard of Pokey Lafarge. I've never heard of that. Yeah, but now I used to could play Freebird note for note. I haven't done it in a while. I tried it not too long ago because I was trying to show my son. My son's 16, and I was trying to show him some of those licks. And man, that's a workout. If you don't keep up with that song and play it every day, and you jump into it, yeah, you will definitely. If you're even starting to get carpal tunnel, you'll figure it out real quick. But yeah, how many times have I heard someone play Freebird? Oh man, I've heard it to death, and I've been guilty of doing it. So yeah, there's that. Uh, but yeah, one of these days, I may go over. I've talked about this before, but one of these days we may go over to Facebook and do a live stream from there where I can. You can get away with doing covers on Facebook. At least I have in the past, more so than you can here on YouTube. Because when you do them here on YouTube, you immediately get hit with copyright. Not you don't get strikes from it, but you get claims, and you end up having to share your revenue with whoever you covered. Which I understand why, but I don't understand how. If someone can ever answer this question to me, uh, there's people out there that reacts to songs all the time, and they're monetized. They make their living off of it, but I've never figured out how to do that because anytime I've ever even halfway played a cover tune on YouTube, I immediately got. And I played some obscure stuff. One night I just randomly busted out a Tom T. Hall song, and they immediately jumped in. That song's Tom T. Hall's, which is cool. They're looking out for him, but yeah. But yeah, we'll get back into playing you guys some tunes. I'll tell you what, since we're talking about all the great music out there that that has influenced us all. Instead of getting back to the political satire, I'll play you one I wrote that's not political satire. We'll get away from that for a minute, and we might do that. We'll do the Buddha tune next. How about that? But yeah, I've always been a fan of storytelling songs. That's always been my thing. And I think that's why I was drawn to people like Steve Earle, because he just had such a great way of writing a story. Drive-by truckers, bands like that, they're so good at just writing a straight-up good story. But yeah, but this tune here was on, it was originally on my album Forgotten Appalachia, which you can find under the name Brandon Fulson. That's Fulson. You can find it on there, on iTunes and all that stuff. Or you can find it on my latest album, Shots of Truth Volume 2. The original version on Forgotten Appalachia was just me and a baritone guitar, and my good buddy John Baker did some volume swells with a slide guitar. It sounded really eerie, and I loved it. But then we decided to put a full band version of it on Shots of Truth Volume 2. We also played it at Wayne Stock, and Jennifer did capture that one on video down front. So I'm going to try to get that one up to you guys pretty quick. Jerry Jeff Walker, I love that guy. But anyway, this tune here is called Hillbilly Angel, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Been 18 months since she kicked that demon. 6 a.m. and the baby's screaming. The coal trucks woke up Maggie again. She still likes her reefer in the morning. Gets tired of hearing her shrink a warning. Now she's one toke away from a gateway back to sin. Works part-time down at Connolly's Drive-In. Such a great time to be alive in. The old men hang around to watch her sway. Some like to flirt and some talk shitty. Pick up lines worse than Conway Twitty. Smiles through gritted teeth for take-home pay. She left Path Fork and she headed for the crater, just to get away from all of the haters. She goes home alone, she's nobody's darling. When she smiles, she looks just like Harlan. Who'd have thought she'd ever live to tell? She's a hillbilly angel on a mountain that's blown to hell. The figure's coming back, the family's talking. Some trying to say she's out street walking, out on the porch, taking selfies on Instagram. Her ex-old man's out causing a riot. Heard he's back on that Jenny Crank diet. Looks back and can't believe she ever gave a damn. My mama says, girl, you really need Jesus. She's too busy crushing on Norman Reedus. Besides, she can't go out on a Sunday night. Gets lost in her songs every time she hears them. Caught up in the groove and addicted to the lyrics. If anyone asks, tell them she's doing alright. Yeah, she goes home alone, ain't nobody's darling. When she talks, she sounds just like Harlan. Who'd have thought she'd ever live to tell? She's a hillbilly angel on a mountain blown to hell. just a hillbilly angel on a mountain that's gone to hell. All right, thank y'all so much. That song was actually written about a friend of mine who I saw in recovery, and she had pretty much beat everything, all the hard stuff, and got away from it, but she still liked to have her reefer from time to time, and there was people giving her a hard time about it. And I just kind of thought it was some bullshit, so I wrote a song about it. There's a line, I saw a comment, and I got cracked up. There's a line about the pickup line's worse than Conway Twitty. Now, let me be brutally honest with you guys. I do like Conway Twitty's music, but for those of you that aren't familiar with it, or those of you that are, you know that Conway Twitty's songs was always perverted. They just were. Man, I mean, he had songs about, hey, I'd love to lay you down, and, and every song that Conway ever had was always talking about how he was finding some, I mean, he really was. I'm not making this up. He was always finding some young girl, and he was going to take her out and show her a good time for the first time ever, and, as I taste your tender kisses, I can tell you've never been this far before, and I'd love to lay you down, and I could see through your tight-fitting jeans and all that shit. And so back years ago when I was playing in dive bars, there was these older guys that would come in the bar that hadn't been out of the house since the 80s, and they did not get the memo that Luke Duke's wardrobe went out of style, okay? And so they would come in these places like just drowned it in like cologne. You could smell them before you see them coming. And they'd always be like, hey, play me some Conway. And then they'd go over and find the youngest girl in the room that was just old enough to get in the place and try to get her on the dance floor to dance. And it was so cringe. It was just so cringe to me. Those kind of guys turned me against Conway Twitty for years. I couldn't sing none of his songs for years because I was always having to sing them to the old purrs. And so I was like, ugh. And so when I was writing that song, I just pictured the guys sitting down there, and they do it, by the way. There really is a place called Conley's Drive-In. It's in Middlesboro, Kentucky. If you ever get a chance to go, go. They got the greatest foot-long hot dog of all time. They got awesome cheeseburgers, the crinkle-cut fries. It's great. But I have been sitting on the parking lot and heard the old men just flirting with the car hops, and so I was like, yeah, it's just their pickup lines are outdated. But so that was me throwing a little bit of shade at Conway Twitty, but hey, it was funny anyway. John Prine is right there. Yep, that's one of my favorite writers of all time. But back when we I'll switch guitars for this next one. But back when we like I said, back when we were going through the pandemic, I said this earlier, started doing these live streams because all the gigs dried up. And one day I just set this little Buddha. He was actually sitting on the table right before I hit record, and I didn't really even realize he was in the camera shot. And once I realized he was in there, I just left him. I was like, yeah, he could stick around. A Buddha can hang around and be a little, bring us some good luck and some good vibes here at the table. And so anyway, a good friend of mine gave this statue to me. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the story, but I know a lot of you haven't. Thank you so much, Vol Queen, for that. I really appreciate that. Don't want to get sidetracked here, but Vol Queen just gifted 10 memberships, and I've had several people do that over the time we've been doing these, and then I've had people stick around as members and be like, hey, I got gifted a membership, and now I'm back, and I'm here to stay. So I really appreciate you doing that. It really helps. And for those of you that haven't checked out the membership tiers on the channel, if you'll hit the join button, you'll see what the tiers offer. And I'm always putting out members-only content for everybody. So, yeah, thank you so much to the Vol Queen for that one. But yeah, anyway, me and my friend was sitting out in the yard, and we were partaking in some good. I'm trying to figure out the word I can say here on YouTube. Hallucinogenics and things of that nature, and we were just really having a good time. And so we were sitting around a campfire, and then we went inside. And when we got inside, this little Buddha was sitting on her dresser, and I picked him up and looked at him, and he's just got the biggest I mean, happiest smile you ever seen on his face. And in my state of mind, I just started laughing. I started laughing like crazy. And my friend was like, hey, why are you laughing at my Buddha for? I said, because he looks happy. He looks really happy, I need to be happy like that. And she said, yeah, you do. She's like, Buddha wants you to be happy. So I said to her at one point, I said, I've never seen Jesus smile that big, And the next day when I got ready to go home, she handed me this Buddha, and she was like, hey, you take him with you. She's like, last night is the most that, I've ever saw you laugh, so just rub his belly for good luck and take him with you. And I did, and then I got home and I started digging back in and studying Buddhism again. I'd studied it back when I was a teenager, but it really didn't, it was definitely that kind of tobacco. I'd read Buddhism before, but it hadn't really hooked me. But I think, I was at a point in my life where it did, and it made sense, and I still read it pretty much a daily basis. I also listened to a really good podcast called Secular Buddhism with Noah Rasheda. If you guys ever get a chance to check that one out, he does a really good job of breaking it down. But we'll do this song, because when I got home after she told me that, I decided that I had to write a song about this little guy, and he's been here at the table with me ever since. Actually, let me try it. I do it from time to time. I do it in different keys. Sometimes I'll drop it down and do it in E and sing it a little bit more like Johnny Cash, but we'll get it up in G and try it. Buddha sat on her dresser with a Jimmy Carter smile. She said, rub his belly for good luck. You're gonna need it for a while. Come to think, when I've seen Buddha, he's got a glassy-eyed grin. Unlike the guy from my raising, he was always dying for sin. Jesus sat on the mantle. He had such a stoic face. He looked miserable above the altar and strung out at Grandma's place. And even knocking on my door, he had a sad look in his eye. Kinda got me thinking maybe I've been talking to the wrong guy. And I've done unto others, they nearly done me in. I turned the other cheek and they tried to cave it in. I laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see. I can't carry the cross no longer. I can't live with nail-scarred hands. And I can't die for people who don't care to understand. And it is not my place to carry guilt and shame. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I'm no savior, I'm no healer. I don't have the answers yet. I'm not a preacher, I'm no teacher. I'm just a poet with a pen. And I ain't gonna let them string me up just to service their own fate. So when they ask you how they lost control, you can tell them that I'm away. And I've done unto others, they nearly done me in. I turned the other cheek and they tried to cave it in. And I laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see. I can't carry the cross no longer. I can't live with nail-scarred hands. And I can't die for people who won't try to understand. And it is not my place to bear the sword in vain. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I better be the laughing Buddha or I just might go insane. All right, there's a little laughing Buddha for you. Man, thank you guys so much for being here with me. I really appreciate it. And we'll get back into some of the political satire before we go. And I wrote this tune here. I don't know that I've ever played this one here at the table, to be honest with you. Wrote it back last year when Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox News. And I knew that wouldn't be the end of him. The song is called Bye Bye Bow Tie, and the reason I called it that is because back in the day, he used to always wear that little goofy bow tie. And there was that great time that, like, Jon Stewart just roasted his ass for wearing that bow tie. And I wrote the tune. And in the tune, I actually say, well, I'm sure QAnon, they're all looking for some new whores. And so, sure enough, I mean, he just went out there and become an even bigger propaganda salesman. And now we got him sitting down with the Kremlin talking, and it's like, what in the world, Again, I never would have thought, as a kid who grew up and watched Rocky IV and realized that Ivan Drago was the bad guy, I never realized that we would be watching an American, I'm not going to call him a journalist, I refuse, an American sellout going over and just throwing softball questions at the guy. But I wrote this tune back then called Bye Bye Bow Tie, and there's parts of it that still holds water and still holds true. I may have to do an updated version on this one, but for now we'll just leave it the way it was. And like I said, he's already kind of grew into it even more, so here we go. Bye bye bow tie, so glad to see you go. We're so over your bullshit, it's time to hit the road. You pushed their propaganda, son, you really sold their soul. Bye bye bow tie, so glad to see you go. There's a sucker born every day, and you sure found a bunch. Every time I hear your voice, I almost lose my lunch. That puzzled look on your face always makes me sick. You look just like a dog staring up at a card trick. You love to work the crowd like a villain in the ring. You played right into Putin's hands like a puppet on a string. If you're looking for a new gig, you can head for InfoWars. But I hear tell the Kremlin they're looking for a few good whores. So bye bye bow tie, so glad to see you go. So over your bullshit, it's time to hit the road. You pushed their propaganda, son, you served your masters well. Bye bye bow tie, we'll see your ass in hell. Yeah, bye bye bow tie, we'll see your ass in hell. All right. Yeah, I tell you what, when he went in there and did all the damn, grocery shopping, and one of the funniest parts about that video, I don't know if you guys saw it, is he goes into this place where you got to put a quarter in the shopping cart, and, he's like, you could put a quarter here, and I guess the incentive is to bring the cart back so some homeless person won't steal it. And I was like, there's Aldi's around where I live, and I go to Aldi's from time to time, and I just always thought the shopping cart was so I would return it and get my quarter back. I never actually thought about a homeless person stealing it. But of course, that's where he had to take it. And that was one of the most ridiculous bits I've ever seen a guy in a Russian grocery store, and he didn't put anything into context. He didn't tell you that that's not a good deal over there. He just tried to make it out like that they have better deals than us. And so that was some absolute just bullshit. But this tune here, I'm going to play it for sure before we go, because this tune here was one of the first political satire tunes that I wrote. And after I wrote this one, it's like the ball got rolling, and I just wrote a bunch more. But man, every time I turn around here in Tennessee, there is some news story that just makes me want to throw up. And our Governor Bill Lee is always there, to just help push it all along. And like I say in this song, I was born here in Tennessee, and I've lived here now. I mean, I said I was born in Tennessee, raised in Kentucky, and I've lived in Tennessee now for 25 years. Um, it's getting harder and harder to say, hey, y'all come in, y'all come back and see us. I don't blame anybody for just passing on through, especially with the stuff that Bill Lee and everyone is going for. But Gloria Johnson, who is running for Senate here in Tennessee, is somebody that I like to talk about as much as I can, because Gloria is the voice that I think we need here in Tennessee and Washington. She's already in the House of Representatives, and they're trying to get her kicked off of one of the ballots, because they say she shouldn't be allowed to run for two offices at the same time, or run for an office while she's already holding one. That's not something that's uncommon. It happens all the time, but they've really always been after Gloria and tried to knock her down a few pegs, and they're still doing so. But Gloria came up with a bill that would give children, and I think about this, it would give children 12 years of age and under access to abortion care. And Tennessee Republicans have slapped that down. So that means the state I live in, and I know a lot of you live here too, that means that a 12-year-old and under child would be forced to carry their rapist baby to term. Now, there's some people that would say, well, is it always rape? And Gloria makes the argument that, yes, it is. Because in Tennessee, a child cannot consent. A child under 13 years of age cannot consent to sex, so therefore it is that. And this would ensure they could get the help they needed. It would also ensure that the doctors couldn't be penalized or face a felony. But man, we just got these people that are always going to be in the way of progress, and they're always going to be continuing to fight their war on women, and that's what this is at the end of the day. I really believe that it is. But back last year, when Governor Bill Lee his main concern was banning drag queens, I was just like, what's some bullshit, And then, of course, pictures of him surfaced in drag, and he can't stand for you to bring that up. But we'll play this tune, and then we'll do another one about the things that are going on here in Tennessee. Well, the governor says I should be afraid of the latest boogeymen. They're all wearing dresses and reading books to the kids. But he's okay with my children having active shooter drills. And he's never said a word about what the priests have done for real. Yeah, Tennessee is home to me, but I do have to admit it's getting a whole lot harder to say I'll come again. 'Cause everywhere I turn, a redneck waves some hateful rag, and it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause Bill Lee, he's a drag. The good old boys dug hair bands back when glam rock ruled the day. They wore spandex and their high heels, and now they're all afraid. And I hear tell the governor used to dress in women's clothes. Go ask him about it and just watch his head explode. Yeah, Tennessee is home to me, but these sure are strange times. I never thought I'd see the day when being homeless was a crime. Now those hypocrites out screaming that their God hates fags, and it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Bill Lee, he's a drag. Yeah, it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Bill Lee, he's a drag. All right, and again, thank you so much for gifting those memberships. I truly appreciate all of you. We're going to stick around here for a few more minutes at the table, but I want to thank you guys so much for being in here with me, and thanks for all your support. I really appreciate it. It's always fun. We try to do these every other week, and I don't really have anything on the agenda too much coming up, although we will be at the Appy Awards, and I do believe that's taking place, let's see, I believe the Appies is on the 16th. I don't know if Jess is still with us. I know that she was feeling sick and under the weather and was still trying to be our bouncer. But I think the Appies is going to take place on the 16th. Yeah, because I'm going to be playing with my good buddy Ashton Williams down at Barley's. I believe it is, or the Press Pub. Maybe the Press Pub, my bad. I'm going to be playing a show with him, just jamming with him and his band on the 9th. And then the 16th, I'll be rolling into the Appies, where I've been nominated for the Best Social Media Influencer. And Jess is nominated for the Best Graphics Design. She's who does all my thumbnails and album covers. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much. Those are some of the things coming up. But we may try to squeeze one in. I know we do them every other week. We may try to squeeze one in on a Friday, or maybe go in for the 23rd, something like that. We'll squeeze one in and do another one of these. But also, be sure to be on the lookout, because there's going to be a lot more content starting to hit the channel. We're working with people to get new content here and a lot of collaboration videos and things like that. So we're really looking to expand the channel and grow it out even further. We've already hit 77,000. I made the announcement the other day that we hit 75,000 subscribers. We're already to now 77. And so thank you guys so much for making that happen. But yeah, Gloria Johnson is working really hard here in Tennessee, and people like Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, they're rising stars in the Democratic Party, and we need those people. We really do. They stood up to the gun violence last year. They got expelled for doing it. Yeah, we were just at 70,000 like a week ago, so that's how fast it's growing, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, I may get that one before we tap out for sure. But I wrote this tune here back when Jones and Pearson was expelled, and Gloria stood for forever with her hand in the air, and they wouldn't even take her question. It was just some crap. But anyway, Gloria's got a lot of good stuff that she's working on, and we really hope that if you live here in Tennessee, be sure to get out and vote for Gloria Johnson, and let's get Marsha Blackburn out of there, because, man, she's just a disgrace, and she's not done like a town hall meeting or a debate in years, and trust me, if she debates Gloria Johnson, I'm getting the biggest thing of popcorn ever for that one, because I interviewed Gloria, and me and Gloria sees things eye to eye, and I was intimidated sitting across from her, with her agreeing with me. I can't imagine what it would be like to have her coming back on the opposite side of that. But yeah, thank you guys so much. We did it. Thank you. We hit over 1,000 likes. I really, really appreciate that. Every time we do these, we just keep growing it and getting it up there and getting it further. And so yeah, thank you guys so much for everything you do, and for sharing, liking, hitting the notification bell. Be sure to do that if you've not. I looked at my analytics the other day, not to get too long-winded here, but I looked at my analytics the other day, and still, like, my audience, like 78% of the people listening to me haven't subscribed yet. So that means there's a I can't do the math in my head, but there's a shit ton of people that are listening that haven't got around to hitting that subscribe button yet. So be sure to do that. Hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you'll know when I go live, and you'll know when I post new videos. But here's a tune I wrote for Gloria and for Jones and for Pearson, the Tennessee Three. Thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate that. They said right out loud, we ain't gonna fix it. Better get used to the blood. Took to the streets to raise up our voices. For too long enough was enough. The fascists move quickly to silence the noise, distract so no one can see. We cannot back down, stay strong on this ground, and stand with the Tennessee Three. You want to talk save the children? Well, here's an idea. Keep them safe in their schools. No military weapons out on the street, in the hand of just any old fool. If we want to see our babies prosper and grow up in this land we call free, then we cannot back down, stay strong on this ground, and stand with the Tennessee Three. No time for fake outrage, no time for culture wars. Our children are dying and we're tired of trying to reason with the lobbying whores. The blood on your hands will long be remembered for generations to see. But they'll remember a time we couldn't turn a blind eye. We stood with the Tennessee Three. Yet now is the time we can't turn a blind eye. Gotta stand with the Tennessee Three. All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Moving right along, I'm going to jump into a few more songs before we go. We may go a little bit past 11. Sometimes we stop right around that ballpark, but as long as you guys are hanging out, we've hit 1,000 likes and we're moving on up. So I'll play y'all a few more. You know, I'll definitely bring us back around to where we end this on a more positive note, and we ended on more of an upbeat, so we're not depressed about things. But I wrote this tune here back in 21, and I put it on the album Brando's Ribbler Review. And that was the album that kind of was a turning point. It was the album I made that I felt like just sort of shifted me right on over into Tennessee Brando and doing the Shots of Truth stuff. But I wrote this tune here, and it was definitely one of the political tunes that made its way onto the album, but it wasn't so much a political tune in my mind as it was a protest tune. And, it definitely wasn't satire. It was pretty much straight on. My good friend Cecilia Wright played the cello on the recorded version of this. She also was playing bass with me at Wayne Stock, and she's just a true friend and someone that I confide a lot in, and we figure stuff out together. And so I was really glad to have her play on this tune. But one of the hardest parts to me about the Trump years, and I hate that he's even still in the conversation, but it was just the way that he empowered so many people to be assholes. And he empowered so many people to just go ahead and say all the quiet parts out loud. And there was a whole lot of, really good people that I thought were good people, and I thought they meant well. And I thought maybe they were just stubborn or set in their ways. And then when he came along and ripped off that Band-Aid and people started talking, it just seemed like that. I was like, no, these people ain't joking. They mean this shit, They're for real about this. And it really got me down and out. But I ended up writing this tune about it, and Cecilia sang harmony and played the cello on it. And it's one of my favorite songs that I've wrote, but it's also a song I wished I never had to write, to be honest. I wish that this wasn't a thing and I didn't have to say it out loud. But this one's called Good People. I used to think they were good people, maybe just set in their ways. They told me it was all about heritage, nothing to do with the hate. Now I watch as good people look for a reason and a rhyme to justify another man dying. I've lost count of the times they say should have just listened, he should have complied. If he wasn't up to no good, he would not have died. What about his rap sheet? What about his past? What if he were your brother, is all I will ask. I could have swore they were good people. Now make jokes for the dead, and then expect me to believe all lives matter while they thump books they've never read. Now I do believe there are good people who stand against hate, gives me hope. But if there's one thing I've learned, what I thought were good people were really just a wolf in sheep's clothes. They say just entertain us, we don't care what you think. Just throw the football, shut up and sing. What will be remembered when it comes to the end won't be the words of the enemy, but the silence of friends. All right, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Like I said, that's one of those tunes that I almost wished I didn't even have to play. it's like, you know, it's true, but sometimes the truth is pretty brutal. But yeah, thank you guys so much for sticking around with me. We'll do y'all a couple of more. I'll tell you what, we'll lighten the mood back up. We'll get out of that and lighten the mood up. We can always count on Lauren Boebert to dig us out of a hole and get us all back laughing and going, what in the hell? Because if there ever was a walking train wreck, it's her. Back when I was writing all the political satirical stuff and just laughing and having a blast doing it, I wrote this tune, and I first wrote it like a slow country ballad. I thought it'd be funny if I just kind of had some like whiny steel guitar in it, you know, just played it. But then again, I had been writing a lot of tunes like that, and I thought, no. When I saw her getting kicked out of the Beetlejuice play, the way she was walking and being all sassy, and it just reminded me of like seeing people get kicked out of bars back when I played in them. You know, I played in dive bars, which I never played behind the chicken wire like Blues Brothers, but I needed it a time or two. I definitely needed chicken wire, and sometimes had to be escorted out the back door just because there would be fights in the front door and you couldn't get away from it. And so just seeing her kicked out and being argumentative and being sassy the way she was, I was like, no, instead of writing this song like a country ballad, it needs to just be kind of rocked up and just kind of show her for the buffoon that she is, or in this case, the clown. Because we got Bozo the clown, but we also got Bobo, and she's worse. Bobo's a new kind of clown, a pretty little talking head. Country boys love to stare her down. Yeah, Bobo's a new kind of clown. They put her in tight jeans and a gun on her hip, long curly brown hair and ruby red lips. Her only agenda is owning the libs. Is she really just that dumb, or is she reading the script? Yeah, Bobo's a new kind of clown, a poor man Sarah Palin, and that's sad. Throwing dumb one-liners around. Yeah, Bobo's a new kind of clown. Preaches family values while hers goes off the rails. Tries to praise the good Lord, but too busy raising hell. Now I ain't passing judgment, I know that divorce is tough. But her own words, I guess she didn't chase Jesus enough. Yeah, Bobo's a new kind of clown. Always has a handy for everyone. Not one shred of class can be found. 'Cause Bobo's a new kind of clown. Yeah, Bobo's a new kind of clown. All right. Thank y'all so much. Again, hope everyone has had a good time here at the table. I'm going to get y'all a couple of more and we'll call it a night. But we'll be back here soon to do this. It's always so much fun doing it with y'all. I really appreciate it. And, you know, one thing that people says to me all the time, they'll say, Brando, you're in an echo chamber. You need to get out of your echo chamber. And my argument is this. I live in the Bible Belt. There is no way in hell that I'm ever not going to... there's no way I could ever be in an echo chamber because I am surrounded by the other point of view. I hear it every day, whether I want to or not. And so, I got to thinking about it though, and I thought, you know what? If we're not going to depend on conspiracy theories, and we're going to be in a group of people that's not about hate and not about spreading misinformation, and there's not going to be a bunch of just vile hatred, then yeah, I'll stay in this echo chamber with this voice of reason, because I feel like the people we have here tonight talking and having a conversation, we're reasonable people, and as long as there's a voice of reason, I'll gladly stay in an echo chamber with that. But I'm not going to entertain an echo chamber with just some of the lunacy on the other side. So that's kind of what this one's about. It's called Echo Chamber. If there's no loath and no spreading lies, just rational thoughts and compromise. If there's no vile words of anger, I'll stay inside my echo chamber. No misinformation, conspiracy theories, misguided fools playing judge and jury. If there's just peace and love in your neighbor, I'll stay inside of my echo chamber. Ain't shaking hands with a clenched fist, no need to unite. If you done picked your poison, done went and chose up sides. If you're just passing blame and pointing your fingers, oh no, I'll stay inside my echo chamber. Clickbait headlines to distract, they comfort you with alternative facts. If you're just repeating your favorite anchor, won't you step outside your echo chamber? Ain't shaking hands with a clenched fist, no need to unite. If you've done picked your poison, done went and chose up sides. If you're just passing blame and pointing your fingers, oh, well, I'll stay inside my echo chamber. what? There really shouldn't be. I saw that comment, and really there shouldn't even be alternative facts. It's a shame that we actually have them in this world. That there's such a thing that people thinks there's such a thing. But how about two more, and we'll close you guys out. I really appreciate you being here. Hope everyone's had a great time. We will be back soon. So thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be releasing some new singles here pretty soon, since I've been writing some more. We'll be getting those out to you as soon as we can. This song, I always enjoy playing this one because I almost didn't put this one on my latest album, Shots of Truth Volume 2. It almost missed the cut. And then I played it, and when Greg Horn, who plays pedal steel and lead guitar with me, heard it, he's like, "No, dude, you got to include this one." And I think it fits along with the theme of what we've talked a whole lot about here tonight. One of the things we've touched on, and that is that back last year when the whole Bud Light fiasco happened and Kid Rock went out and shot up all the Bud Light cans. Garth Brooks just came out and simply said, "Hey, I'm going to still be serving Bud Light. I'll be serving Bud Light in my new bar." And people just, criticized him over it and was like, what an asshole. And the thing is, like, I was a fan of Garth Brooks' first couple albums. Then he kind of lost me with a lot of the pop stuff and a lot of the Chris Gaines. That just kind of lost me for a while. But then years later, I saw Garth doing stuff like helping Jimmy Carter, and doing a lot of stuff to help people and raise money for people. And while I didn't like some of his poppier country tunes, I respected the fact that he seemed to want to help people and do some, positive things. And so I just said to myself, it's kind of a strange world we're living in if, like, all of a sudden, back when I was a teenager, I listened to Travis Tritt all the time. And I was like, now I'm kind of getting away from listening to him, and I seem like I'm more aligned with Garth Brooks. That's just kind of weird. And so I wrote this tune here called A Beer with Garth. And if I ever make it back down to Nashville, we're going to go in his bar and have a Bud Light. We'll have to have a video of that just so that so it can upset the trolls. But here we go. This is Beer with Garth. It felt like the times were changing, or so we all believed. Thought we were making progress, man, were we naive. Some folks need a hero, and that hero found his crowd and gave them all the balls to say the quiet parts out loud. Then rage became the fashion, disrespect became the trend, and assholes want to make hate great again. Politics make for strange bedfellows, and now here we are, tuning out the trids and having a beer with Garth. We get told we hate the country, but we don't back their guy. We point out the obvious, they hit their gaslight. They tell us we hate Jesus while they sit and wish us dead. I've read the book and they don't look a thing like the words in red. And now rage became the fashion, disrespect became the trend, and it's time that we make those racists afraid again. Politics make for strange bedfellows. Now here we are, tuning out the kid, having a beer with Garth. Yeah, we're tuning out all the bullshit, having a beer with Garth. All right, man. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to close you out with this tune here, and I probably don't play it enough here on the show. But for those of you that watch the Midas Touch Network, thank you guys so much again for gifting those memberships. I really appreciate it. But for those of you out there that watch the Midas Touch Network, I'm proud to be a part of that and working with those guys to do a lot of cool things. And we're going to be collaborating on a lot of things coming up. So be sure to keep your eyes open for that. But back last year, I wrote the theme song for Midas Touch because all of a sudden I was like, they don't have a theme song and they need one. And it's a really good group of people that I'm really glad to be a part of. And they've been so helpful to me in helping me to get better at what I do. And like I said, we're going to be collaborating with them on a lot of stuff coming up. And so we're going to just keep working to grow the channel and move it forward. But I want to thank you guys so much for all your support and helping me grow it to this point. We hit 77,000 subscribers. We made it up to 1,169 likes tonight. We've had over 500 people in here the majority of the time, and that's great. So yeah, we're going to close it out by giving a shout out to the Midas Mighty. Don't ever miss their podcast. Be sure to check them out. And again, man, thank you guys so much for being with us. So we'll send this out to the Midas Mighty as we close. The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We'll get it right whenever they go wrong. The Midas Mighty standing strong. We're here to fight the good fight and set the record straight. There's no two sides to treason. There's no two sides to hate. We will look for the silver lining in the darkest cloud. But remember, truth is golden. So come on and sing it loud. The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We'll get it right whenever they go wrong. The Midas Mighty standing strong. The radicals won't stand a chance. We'll just shout them down. Inspire a generation to rise up and vote them out. We will look for the silver lining in the darkest clouds. And remember, truth is golden. So come on and sing it loud. The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We'll get it right whenever we go wrong. The Midas Mighty standing strong. All right, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for hanging out. Real quick before I go, I saw this comment roll across several times while I was singing, and I kept meaning to circle back to it. So before we go, we just have to say the name Next Benedict. And for those of you that wasn't aware of that story, a trans kid was beaten to death in the girls' bathroom. Actually, she was beaten severely in the girls' bathroom, and the next day they ended up succumbing to the injuries. It's one of the worst stories I've heard in a long time. And Oklahoma had just passed a bill that said kids had to go to the bathroom of the gender that they were assigned, and Next Benedict was in the girls' bathroom, even though they were non-binary. And I just really feel like that this type of MAGA politics is what led to that. And so we really got to keep our eye on the ball as we go into the election And there may be times that we disagree with Joe Biden. I definitely do a lot. But I think at the end of the day, he's a good man who's doing the best he can under the circumstances we're under. And I feel like we have to keep women's rights at the front of our mind, and we have to keep Next Benedict at the front of our mind and say their name always. And yeah, I'm referring to them as they because that's what they wanted to be referred to. And I'm a person that believes it's just a simple act of respect. I got bitched out one time because I have the pronouns in my bio on Twitter. I had mine in there, and I'm like, look, I put that in there so that the trans community would go, hey, this guy's not an asshole. That's basically it. And so let's just always remember what we're here for, and let's just keep fighting the good fight and move forward. And let's hope that one day we can look back on this whole thing and the MAGA ideology will just be a bad dream and a bad memory that we sit down and try to figure out how to, hey, let's never let that happen again. So, again, don't forget the name Next Benedict, and don't forget to vote. So I will see you guys soon, and I'll be having more videos coming out tomorrow, so just keep your eyes open. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you'll always know when I put something out. But, yeah, I really appreciate you guys for sitting here. We sat here for almost 2.5 hours. You guys hung with me. We kept the crowd. And that is such a breath of fresh air. I want to say one more thing before I go, not to get too long-winded. But, I played in dive bars for years, and I can't count the times that I would go out and play somewhere, and I'd be in a room full of 50 or 60 people, or sometimes a couple of hundred people, and they would almost be as though they were trying to be in a contest to see if they could scream and talk and be louder than the band was. And fuck that. I'm much happier being here, sitting down with over 500 people that actually gives a damn and wants to hear what I got to say and wants to have conversations with me and move the conversations forward. So I truly appreciate you guys, and I'm glad things worked out the way they did. I'm so glad I'm sitting here tonight in this chair talking about the issues at hand than being out there drunk off my ass singing another Skinner tune. So it's good to be here with you, and I look forward to being with you again. So you guys take care, and we'll see you down the road.